Kim Yo-jong is a master propagandist, political firecracker, and potential claimant to the North Korean leadership. But what do we actually know about her? In an era where we're intimately tracked via our online presence, our grocery store purchases, and even our genetic code, how can someone keep basic details of their background under lock and key? Well, they might start off by being born in North Korea. The secretive nation-state is strictly closed to most outsiders, who are left to speculate on what's really going on inside the DPRK. As a daughter of the country's most elite family, few exemplify this state of affairs as thoroughly as Kim Yo-jong. Despite what some sources may claim, we're not even sure when she was born. The U.S. Treasury has claimed that her birthday is September 26, 1989, while South Korea maintains that she was actually born 2 years earlier. The most anyone can guess with any level of certainty is that she's somewhere in her mid to late 30s. Likewise, it's assumed she was born in the capital of Pyongyang, or at least grew up there. It's also known that she has 2 elder brothers, including North Korea's current leader Kim Jong-un. She also has at least 2 half-brothers. However, it wouldn't be much of a surprise to learn that her father, who had multiple mistresses, produced illegitimate children elsewhere. Kim Yo-jong's older brothers, Jong-un and Jong-chul, were sent to study abroad during their youth. In 1994, Jong-chul made his way from North Korea to Bern, Switzerland, where he posed as the son of diplomats who were actually his maternal aunt and uncle. Kim Jong-un followed 2 years later. The aunt, Ko Young-suk, told reporter Anna Feifeld that they all lived a fairly normal life, complete with playdates, birthday parties, and classes at a pricey private school.
Most of the time he was shy, not loud, quiet guy.
Eventually, the 2 siblings moved to a somewhat less prestigious public school, where Kim Yo-jong soon joined them. Very little is known about what exactly Yo-jong did during her years in Switzerland, but it's reasonable to assume that she lived a fairly normal life for a high-status European child. Observers from this time have claimed that she was often accompanied by multiple attendants who acted as drivers, bodyguards, and companions for the young girl. Kim Yo-jong then returned to North Korea by 2001 to complete her education. It's likely that she took some classes at Kim Il-sung University in the nation's capital and began voicing her ambitions around this time, as in 2002, her father proudly spoke about her political interests to a number of foreign visitors. When it comes to the Kims, the order of birth doesn't have much to do with who ascends to power. Kim Jong-il's eldest son, Jong-nam, was a disappointment to the regime and lived in exile abroad before his eventual assassination. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un appeared to demonstrate the talent necessary to control the DPRK. Kim Yo-jong has reportedly displayed similar ambitions, which aren't without precedent. Her elder half-sister Kim Sol-song has long been considered a potential high-flying political figure who holds serious power in the regime. Notably, Kim Jong-il reportedly once referred to his youngest daughter as Princess Yo-jong. But despite the patriarchal nature of North Korean society, Kim Jong-il was more than merely proud of Kim Yo-jong. As insider reports would have it, he once admitted that if only Yo-jong had been born a boy, she would have been the real successor to the North Korean regime. As it stands, she has acquired a fair number of political appointments and gained significant international notoriety, all stemming from the early promise her father saw in her. Despite her growing status within North Korea, the identity of the young woman often seen standing with Kim Jong-il was never clear. Clearly, she must have been someone of prominence, as you don't let just anyone stand beside the dear leader. Unimportant people, likewise, wouldn't be allowed to attend the old leader's funeral in such a public-facing manner. Still, this woman's identity was difficult for outsiders to define. In retrospect, careful observers have been able to pick out Kim Yo-jong's earliest appearances, even if she wasn't officially credited by sources such as state media. South Korean analysts were able to find her attending the Third Korean Workers' Party conference in September 2010, apparently as a member of her father's entourage. She was also seen traveling internationally with Kim Jong-il shortly before his death. Then, she held a fairly prominent, if silent, role in the state funeral for Kim Jong-il in December 2011.
How could the sky not cry, lamented this soldier, when they'd lost a great general who came from the sky.
It wasn't until March 2014 that Kim Yo-jong was officially identified by North Korean state media. On that occasion, she was spotted next to the new leader, Kim Jong-un, at the Supreme People's Assembly elections. One inescapable fact makes Kim Yo-jong's current political successes all the more remarkable. She's a woman. North Korea is a highly patriarchal society in which men dominate and women are supposed to be submissive. They certainly aren't meant to have a seat at the Politburo. North Korea's self-asserted communist system of government does complicate things, as theoretically everyone is supposed to be legal equals, but the everyday reality is different. Few women have made it in North Korean politics, and it's difficult to ignore the long-standing history of Korean culture. Yet Kim Yo-jong has not only acquired a rare seat in the nation's Politburo, but has even issued statements on her brother's behalf. For that, she may have her family's cult of personality to thank. Often, her family is referred to as the Mount Paektu bloodline, in reference to the peak in the north of the country where the first supreme leader, Kim Il-sung, is said to have fought off capitalist invaders. This is also where Kim Jong-il was reportedly born, though records indicate his birthplace was actually located over the border in Russia. This near-mythical association has been used to bolster the Kim regime and almost certainly opened doors for Kim Yo-jong that would have been shut in the face of any other North Korean woman. As a woman in the North Korean political system, Kim Yo-jong is unusual, but she isn't unique. Her aunt, Kim Kyung-hee, already held high standing as the daughter of Kim Il-sung and sister of Kim Jong-il. She also became a high-ranking woman in the government, and when her brother had a stroke in 2008, she and her husband, government official Jang Song-taek, climbed even higher up the ladder. The pair reportedly acted as mentors to Kim Jong-un and took on more responsibility as Jong-il's health failed. Some analysts even began to consider her to be a sort of regent. Things went wrong fairly quickly after her nephew took power. In 2013, Jang Song-taek was accused of planning a coup and executed.
What does this tell you about the danger coming from North Korea?
Well, it tells us a lot about, first of all, how ruthless and reckless he is.
Kyung-hee quickly left public view, sparking rumors that she too had been executed. She eventually reappeared in 2020, though she appears to have little real power anymore. But Kim Kyung-hee may have had a successor of her own, at least in a fashion, Kim Yo-jong. It's hard to ignore the parallels between the two women's careers. Kyung-hee also worked her way from appointment to appointment, and tellingly, her position in the state's Politburo went to none other than her ambitious niece. This may well have been her own doing, as some reports indicate that she was the one who guided Yo-jong through North Korea's treacherous political system at the beginning of the younger woman's career. In a dictatorial regime, nothing is more important than image, and few governments have done more for the image of its dictator than North Korea, where the cult of personality has elevated the Kim family to mythical proportions. Today, revered portraits of its leader are found everywhere in the country, while North Koreans have been reportedly forced to attend celebrations in honor of Kim Jong-un's 10th anniversary of rule. Much of that may be down to the work of Kim Yo-jong. That's because in 2014, she was appointed the Vice Director of the Workers' Party of Korea Propaganda and Agitation Department, a role that she likely still holds. Despite the title of second in command, sources maintain that she is the one who truly manages the department, thanks in part to Kim Jong-un's trust in his sister's unwavering loyalty. She's also believed to be the mastermind behind Kim Jong-un's everyman image, which has presented him as a paternal, benevolent leader in the vein of their grandfather, Kim Il-sung. All those photos of Kim Jong-un smiling with happy North Korean schoolchildren and cuddling adorable orphans, that's Kim Yo-jong's work. And remember the odd 2013 revelation that Kim Jong-un and former basketball star Dennis Rodman were kind of friends?
We laugh, we sing karaoke, we do a lot of cool things together.
Yes, Rodman's multiple visits to the DPRK, and by extension his subsequent defense of the regime, are almost certainly the result of Kim Yo-jong's propaganda initiatives. Besides effectively heading up the propaganda division of the North Korean Workers' Party, Kim Yo-jong has collected a few other titles and positions throughout her political career. In 2016, she became a member of the Central Committee, and in 2017, she was made an alternate member of the nation's influential Politburo. She also set out on her own to act as an envoy for North Korea during the 2018 Winter Olympics. Things may not have always been so easy for Kim Yo-jong, however. In 2021, her name was missing from the list of Politburo members, though she was still listed as a member of the other government groups like the Central Committee. Was this evidence of a demotion? Observers weren't so sure. Finding the truth in the closed-off world of North Korean politics is famously difficult after all, and it's worth noting that Kim Yo-jong still made public appearances at this time, which would hardly be the case if she was on the verge of being ousted. Either way, she seems to have regained some level of status in the interim, as she not only makes public speeches and issues statements as of 2023, but was promoted to the State Affairs Commission in 2021, her highest position yet. While Kim Yo-jong has witnessed an easing of tensions between North Korea and the regime's enemies, she hasn't necessarily eased up on one of her country's most often deployed tactics, scary language. North Korea and its spokespeople have often promised to rain death and destruction down upon its enemies. In June 2020, when North Korean defectors sent anti-government leaflets back into the country, Kim Yo-jong threatened to shut down thawing relations between North and South Korea, while also referring to activists as human scum and mongrel dogs. The next year, she directed public ire towards the U.S. after it and South Korea conducted joint military exercises, a particular pain point in inter-Korean relations. In an official statement published in March 2021, she warned the newly minted Biden administration that, if it wants to sleep in peace for the coming 4 years, it had better refrain from causing a stink at its first step. In 2022, she also spoke of unimaginably terrible disaster if South Korea undertook military action, and the same year vowed deadly retaliation against the nation for supposedly introducing the COVID-19 virus into North Korea.
They are worse than the rubbish people who are less than animals and at the forefront of sending sloppy items.
One of the most telling signs of Kim Yo-jong's power may be the fact that she is often deployed to speak directly for her brother. There was the time when she acted as a special envoy to South Korea during the 2018 Winter Olympic Games, for instance. While there, she demonstrated the ability to invite South Korean President Moon Jae-in to North Korea, a fairly high-ranking task that would have necessitated a green light from Kim Jong-un prior to the trip. Though Kim Yo-jong didn't make her first official statement in her own name until March 2020, she has certainly made high-level statements and decisions that are usually reserved for Kim Jong-un. In June of that same year, she responded to the appearance of anti-North Korea leaflets in the country by claiming that she had ordered action focused on the International Joint Liaison Office. The next day, that office exploded, indicating that it may have been destroyed under Kim Yo-jong's order. In 2022, Kim Yo-jong rejected an offer of economic help from South Korea in exchange for shutting down North Korea's nuclear weapons program. In her response, she proceeded to tell South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol to shut his mouth, a bold and direct statement that one might expect to come from Kim Jong-un himself. To date, she has made an estimated 40 statements while representing her brother and her country. Speeches and statements are one thing, but could Kim Yo-jong actually take power in North Korea? According to some reports, she already did, at least for a short period. Some analysts have speculated that she may have briefly led the DPRK in October 2014 while Kim Jong-un underwent some sort of medical treatment. Of course, North Korea isn't often ready to admit that its leader might be incapacitated, so we can't be sure that Kim Yo-jong had the opportunity to truly run the nation so early in her career. It doesn't mean the opportunity won't present itself sometime in the future, however. In the event that Kim Jong-un dies before any of his children are old enough to take power for themselves, it could be that Kim Yo-jong would act as regent before the successor comes of age. In this hypothetical scenario, many variables would make such a situation almost entirely unpredictable. Would old-school military officials who have a fair amount of power in North Korea be willing to accept a woman-led government? Would Kim Yo-jong attempt to seize longer-lasting power? Would the Kim family mythos be enough to stabilize an otherwise unstable situation? It's simply impossible to say for sure. At this point in history, Kim Yo-jong has established herself as something of a hardliner in the North Korean media machine. She's not shy about using frightening language that threatens war, retaliation, and nuclear annihilation. But is all this sincere? Perhaps, but perhaps not. It could be that Kim Yo-jong is the bad cop in the classic good cop, bad cop tactic sometimes employed by interrogators and public officials. The good cop here would be none other than current leader Kim Jong-un. Take Kim Yo-jong's statement in March 2020, for example, in which she warned of retaliation after South Korea commanded the North to stop holding military exercises.
Kim Jong-un expressed words of consolation in his letter for those who are fighting COVID-19. He said he will wish for the health of the people in the South.
Mere days later, Kim Jong-un sent a downright cuddly letter to South Korean President Moon Jae-in, offering support and friendship as COVID-19 hit the country. While some have wondered if there is an ideological disconnect within the regime, it's also possible that Kim Yo-jong is leaving room for her brother to change his perception. Not only does this allow Kim Jong-un to appear far more approachable than he might otherwise, but it also gives him the space to change course if he wishes. If his sister says something that sparks outrage or unfortunate consequences, he could claim that it wasn't an official statement and go the other way. While intense speeches and tight control over her brother's propaganda image may be pretty unnerving, for many it's not quite enough to earn Kim Yo-jong the title of the most dangerous woman in the world. Instead, the real kicker is her possible control of the North Korean military. While the DPRK's military may not seem all that advanced, it does possess an estimated 20 to 16 nuclear-armed warheads, with the potential to make more. Given the destructive power of such weapons, even a handful would be cause for serious concern among the country's enemies. When Kim Yo-jong and other members of the regime talk of retaliation, that deadly arsenal looms behind every word. Because Kim Yo-jong has made so many declarations on behalf of her brother's government, Professor Sung-Yoon Lee told Fox News that it's likely she has some level of control over North Korea's military capabilities, and in particular its nuclear weapons. Whether she is a mouthpiece for Kim Jong-un or wields her own influence in the military remains unclear, however. It's also possible that Kim Yo-jong might oversee the flow of foreign cash into the country. Given that North Korea is one of the poorest countries in Asia, an influx of foreign currency can be a big deal. So too would be the person who controls where it goes. It's all linked to a mysterious subsection of the country's ruling Korean Workers' Party, commonly referred to as Office 39. While this isn't confirmed, sources suggest that Kim Yo-jong and her husband have significant roles in Office 39. That would mean they could be directing foreign money that comes into the country into an array of accounts that fund government and family activities. Given the number of heavy economic sanctions that have been imposed on North Korea over the years, this money flow may not always be entirely legitimate. It is particularly telling that the US Department of Treasury specifically picked out Kim Yo-jong for sanctions in 2017. While the department said that it did so because of her links to the propaganda arm of the DPRK, officials told Time that her appearance on the list was actually due to her suspected links to Office 39. As of 2023, Kim Yo-jong appears to remain a formidable figure in North Korean politics. Given that a major part of the nation's political system hinges on dynastic succession within the Kim family, and that power may be allocated to the most capable members of that family instead of the oldest son, it stands to reason that she may be next up for the Supreme Leader seat. But how realistic is that scenario? There are some significant roadblocks that stand between Kim Yo-jong and the top job. North Korea's patriarchy makes the idea of a female leader hard to stomach for some. Speaking to Fox News, analyst Sung-Yoon Lee suggested that her Kim family bloodline may still trump entrenched sexism, but her gender would not make things easy. Then, of course, there are the treacherously shifting loyalties within the political system, which killed Yo-jong's elder half-brother Kim Jong-nam and her uncle Jang Song-taek. Finally, there's Kim Yo-jong herself. She may have realized relatively early on that in order to maintain a balance of power and safety, she has to keep herself on the sidelines. Making speeches, traveling abroad, and working behind the scenes may be as far as she's willing to go, even if the Supreme Leader spot opens up in the near future.